Hello YouTube, Salivate Metal here with a very gloomy subject to discuss today. And this is an opinion piece from CNBC by David Gernon, and it talks about Mark Yusko from Morgan Creek Capital thinks that they're flowing towards the path of the Great Depression. This analyst from this organization says that he believes that we're flowing towards the path of the 1928-29 when Hoover was president. And he points to evidence of declining growth as well as that fall is a weak time traditionally for the U.S. economy as people return from vacation and aren't spending as much. It says that although the economy has been steady this year, at least one analyst has dire predictions comparing the current period to the build-up to the Great Depression and warning that this fall is when things will come to a head. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that this fall will be the start of a Great Depression, but he says that things are very similar to what happened in 1928 and 29 when Hoover was president. So Mark Yusko has been predicting bad news for the economy since January, and he is sticking by that, saying that on Monday on CNBC's Power Lunch that he believes too much stimulus and quantitative easing has resulted in a huge bubble of U.S. stocks. And keep in mind that these practices have been occurring, ramped up greatly under George W. Bush and Barack Obama. He has this belief that we're flowing towards the path of 1928 and 29 when Hoover was president. Now Trump is president. Both were presidents with no experience who come in with a Congress that is all Republican. Lots of big promises, lots of things that don't happen. And the fall is when people realize, wait, it hasn't played out the way we thought. And you know what? He's right, for sure. We have a deadlocked Congress that can't follow through with a very simple promise to repeal Obamacare, at the very least, much less they have so many disagreements on replacement. We have one Olympia Snow from Maine who thinks it would be a shame to pass a healthcare reform bill without any Democratic support. Yeah, that's why they call her a rhino. He points to evidence of declining growth as well as that fall is a weak time traditionally for the U.S. economy as people return from vacation. By the fall, we'll have a lot more evidence of declining growth. Growth has been slipping. However, it is not all gloom and doom. As Yusko said, the emerging markets were still strong places to invest. Growth is where you want to invest, he said. All the growth is in the emerging markets, the developing world. It's really tough if you look around the developed world. He said profits in the United States are the same as they were in 2012. Yusko said at the beginning of the year, every single analyst said the emerging markets were going to underperform the U.S. That hasn't been the case, he says. And a little note on that, it's like, that's assuming that there's going to be growth in these emerging markets. If there's not growth in the United States and a lot of the major players, I don't think you're going to see much in the emerging markets either, but we shall see how this all plays out. Indeed, it says 2017 iShares MCSCI Emerging Markets ETF has been up more than 18%, while the S&P 500 index has risen more than 8%. Yeah, that's after now with the stock market going crazy because of the quantitative easing. It's still in a bubble, in my view. He also sees trends that are going to push interest rates down, making growth harder to find and emerging markets more attractive. These trends are the killer D's, according to Yusko: bad demographics in the U.S., Europe, and Japan, and too much debt and deflation. And there's articles in here, or there's videos which you can watch if you so desire. But the question is, well, what's going to happen? Let's say this does occur, and let's say we're on the path to a Great Depression. I posted a video recently from back in 2008 where the analysts thought, well, it's a downturn in the economy, but we're not going to have a recession and it'll recover soon enough. Well, we look how that turned out. I think we're in a worse case scenario now than we were then. So I think At the very worst, it could be another Great Depression, but I think we are definitely going to have a recession sometime soon, especially if we can't stimulate the economy naturally. And the way you stimulate the economy naturally is to get the government out of the way and allow the free market system to flourish. The private sector is what creates jobs and growth. And the way to do that is to get the government out of the way through tax cuts and allowing people to have more of their money and less regulation. There's only so much Trump can do with executive orders. Congress needs to act because we are still operating under the Obama economy and Obama's policies. Obamacare is killing jobs and is still in effect today, and premiums are sky high for people that are supposedly have coverage but can't take advantage of the policies because of the high premiums. Where does this lead off with gold and silver? Well, if you have a stagnant economy and you were to have another recession, just as in 2008, let's say it's the same as was the case in 2008, more than likely precious metals will drop. And because there's going to be less demand, people aren't going to be able to buy as much, and they could drop at first. And but if the dollar drops, and then they're going to go high. If people see weakness in the dollar and interest rates, then people will probably be more inclined to obtain some, but it may not be enough for the prices to go up at first. Again, this whole idea of deflation before inflation, I think, could be a real thing. And then the other idea is that after we get in deep into the recession, in time the precious metals could go up again, just like they did in 2011. We shall see. I think in some cases that was kind of a unique situation, and they were probably hyperinflated, but the stock market is hyperinflated now more than ever. We're at 21,000 in the Dow. Everything is pumped up so much, way worse than it was during the housing crisis of 2007 and 2008. And now it's spread out, and now we're seeing some of the same things occur in the housing market, but the economy is much more delicate now than it was. So the precious metals are just a protection. It's a hedge against economic downturns. And though you may not see it at the beginning, I think in time you will see confidence in the precious metals as a safe haven start to develop again. And we have another factor that we didn't have in 2008, and that is the cryptocurrencies. That's the unknown factor. Will they flourish? Who knows? They've not been tested by a recession yet. And it's a global phenomenon, the cryptocurrencies. And they're pretty volatile right now, but with all intents and purposes, they're at the highest levels they've been. So getting into them now means that you have a much more likelihood that the prices will go down than up. But that's just my take and guess. I think it's been saturated, or they're near the top. I could be wrong, but it seems like they've been hovering around their highs for quite a while with some pullbacks in Ethereum and others. The other factor is, or the other scenario would be a Great Depression, as this article tends to hint that we are seeing the signs of an actual Great Depression. And there's much more likelihood of that now than ever before since the first Great Depression. What would happen to precious metals then? Well, in my feeling, just as in a recession, the precious metal prices would probably be not raised at first, and they may even go down some. I believe that the precious metals could actually crash in the immediate aftermath of a Great Depression, because people are literally going to be in these bread lines. They're looking for food with whatever they've got at the moment in time. They can't buy precious metals. They need to get bread, literally. They need to get sustenance. And before things start to turn around, I think that there's going to be some people that have the means to buy, and I think they will buy some. But more than likely, they're just going to be trying to save their shirts with what they can as quickly as they can, depending on what the dollar does. We have really no test of this with precious metals because the first time we were in a depression, FDR pretty much stopped the use of gold as money, and there was an executive order that confiscated gold, and you were compensated with $35 per ounce of gold. So, is anybody's really guess as to what the precious metals will do in the immediate aftermath of a depression? Just like if there was an actual economic total collapse or a dollar collapse in an SHTF scenario, well, you're not going to be using your precious metals in the immediate aftermath either. You're going to be using whatever you can to trade and barter to get food and shelter, soap, all the necessities of life. That is what you will be obtaining and acquiring until some semblance of society can be reformed again. And then, when society is reformed again, then insert gold and silver to be used as money. And I think that's the foundation. It's the most basic and easiest way to incur fungibility in a re-emerging society. And a re-emerging society doesn't have to be from a total collapse. It can be from a Great Depression, or it could be from a large recession if it's bad enough. And there's more people in the world today, which means there's going to be more affected by such economic downturns than ever before. And yes, there's a lot of silver out there. I heard somebody say that there is a surge of gold out there. There's more being produced today, but I believe there's not enough for all the population. In other words, population growth is outpacing mining of gold and silver. Post your thoughts below on this interesting topic about a Great Depression and what gold and silver will do. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all. Click the notification bell so that you can stay abreast with the very latest Salivate Metal video. And I would like to encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.